Thanks very much, and hello, everybody. My name is Gosia Mitka, and I'm delighted to be here today and share with you my experience with blended teaching and learning. And greetings from sunny St. Andrews. I'll start by outlining, explaining a little bit about the module that I will use in this case study. Then I will talk about the challenges that I encountered in the transition to blended teaching and learning and the solutions or strategies that I came up with to address these challenges. And I will conclude with students' feedback. So the module that I would like to talk to you about is an international finance module, and it's a module for MSc students. We have approximately 45 students, but they come from all over the world. And we have 2 hours lectures per week. They usually are in person and in-person tutorials. All the materials are available on our virtual learning environment called Moodle. And we have a class test in a classroom, a group briefing, and a final exam in normal times. The pandemic came as a surprise and has created various challenges, such as social distancing during tutorials and lectures. And this implied the limited in-person interaction, group work, and going to a whiteboard was a no-go. We also encountered problems related to limited rooms capacity. Because of the social distancing rules, lectures for students over 30 were canceled, so there was no in-person lectures. And as I said, we had students from all over the world, and some of them were in St. Andrews, but some of them were studying remotely. So this created obstacles to communication, cohort building, and students did not have access to peer support network. All of this limited active learning, engagement, ability to learn from others, and collaboration. I will start by discussing some strategies that I introduced to facilitate learning during and after lectures. As I mentioned, we didn't have in-person lectures, and I had a choice to either stream my lectures online or pre-record videos and upload them. Not to disadvantage students from different time zones, I decided to pre-record the videos and upload them for students. Normally during in-person lectures, I would ask students during the lecture to engage them with the material, and they will usually discuss their questions with their peers, with their neighbor, and then we will discuss it in a large group. So to tackle this problem with online lectures, I decided to include slides with a question and a handout that I uploaded on Moodle with exactly the same questions. And I asked students to, during the video, stop the recording, go to the handout, and take a few minutes to just write a couple of sentences for them to engage them with the material. This allowed for engagement and active learning. These handouts turned out to be a bonus when students were revising for their exams. On top of that, I also decided to add a VLE activity. So on this slide, we can see the first item in blue are the slides uploaded in PDF version, and then the handout. And after a bigger chunk of material, I designed an activity that I normally would do in a classroom, but this time I decided to conduct it using a Moodle activity. So here we can see an example where students had to put themselves in the shoes of an economic advisor of Jay Powell, and they had to come up with 3 recommendations on how to overcome the problem related to US current account deficit. And exactly the same instructions were uploaded on the VLE, and students were giving responses anonymously. In this way, they could see their own responses and compare them to the responses of other students, and they actually engage in this activity. So here, this encouraged students to engage with the material, allowed them to actively learn and learn from each other. Now, let me discuss the tutorials. We still had some in-person tutorials for students in St. Andrews, but this in fact turned out to be much more challenging than the virtual tutorials due to the social distancing problem. So students were sitting 2 meters apart, wearing masks in a classroom, and they couldn't do any group work, they couldn't go to the whiteboard. So I encourage students to bring their laptops or any other device that through which they could connect to Microsoft Teams and use a virtual whiteboard in the tutorial. So from their desk, they could write equations, they could draw diagrams and provide answers to the questions during the tutorial. This increased the engagement, but wasn't ideal. The online tutorials went much better. They were provided, they were taking place on Microsoft Teams and they were recorded. And I facilitated group work, usually taking place at the beginning of the tutorial in breakout rooms. And I provided clear instructions to students on how to work or collaborate, either using the same virtual whiteboard that we used in the in-person tutorial, or by simply providing questions that students would discuss in a Word document, and they could all simultaneously type answers or discuss it in the breakout rooms. This facilitated collaboration and engagement. Now, the last piece I would like to discuss is the change in the assessment structure. We no longer could write a class test in a classroom. And also because students were in different locations, I decided to do something that would create strong peer support network. So I decided to use the group video challenge, similar to the one that of the UCL first year challenge. And I created Microsoft Teams channels for students to communicate. So the teams were based on students in St. Andrews and studying remotely, so that both cohorts were studying together. And I also asked students to organize a watch party and provide peer feedback to not only engage with the material, but with other peers, and also communicate in this way. I then replaced the class test with the individual briefing, and then we also had a final exam. This provided a very good platform for collaboration for students and allowed students to have access to a peer support network. They were complaining a bit because of the differences in the time zones, but still they felt much more supported than if they were studying completely on their own. So to sum up, the strategies that I have used involved adding handouts and activities to engage students with the material in the absence of live lectures, using Microsoft Teams Whiteboard in the in-person tutorial and online tutorials, and breakout rooms to engage students, and changing the assessment structure and design a group assessment early on so that students can collaborate and learn together despite different locations. And this was facilitated by creating a collaborative platform on Teams. Students in general were very happy with this form of provision, and they were happy with this online teaching. I also made sure that when I record the videos, I'm particularly enthusiastic about what I'm teaching, so they don't fall asleep during the video. They found the module to be the clearest and easiest module to follow, and they found the online delivery excellent. That's all that I had to say. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to your questions.